Hey, thanks for joining me this morning. So I've been really busy. I know I haven't done a video in a couple weeks. Just had a lot going on. I've been working on a number of musical instruments. I kind of restored an old mandolin that the top had split in half on this, and I found it at a yard sale. And so I had to make a new top for it, and of course to get the top off I had to take the fingerboard off, and the frets were worn, so I refretted it and got it all set up, and real pretty sounding mandolin now. I can play the guitar and the ukulele. I can play at the violin a little, but the violin's tuned like, or the mandolin's tuned like a violin, so it shouldn't be too much trouble to learn how to play it. Been working on building a baritone ukulele. Got the, you can't really probably see it, but the sides are bent, and I've got the neck carved, and the top and the back are jointed and glued up. And also working on another violin. This violin, the top was in, you can see all the cracks probably, the top was in many pieces, like 6 pieces, 7 pieces. And so I've got the top glued back together. I've got cleats. I'm almost finished working on all the cleats go on the inside, and the back and the sides are coming apart. I've got to work on that part of the body, but this is an old handmade violin that a guy, actually here in Oklahoma, I believe, the label inside just has the guy's name, and Frank Smith and Locust Grove is all it says, and there's not a date. But judging by the age of it and I'll put some pictures on here while I'm talking, but the scroll and the neck, the wood has blistered, the varnish has blistered up, and so I got a lot of work to do on that one. But I love working on old musical instruments. It's probably one of my favorite things to do, finding old musical instruments that are in need of repair and bringing them back to life. And I like that largely because I am bringing something back to life, giving new life to something that's old. Plus, it largely involves hand tools, and I love hand tools. So I went to a flea market, and I'll show some of the other knives I picked up, but I found it was one of those days when you go to an antique flea market or something like that, and it's just like, score, there's all kinds of stuff that I want. So this guy had a table, and he had some Schrade knives that I first bought a Stockman that's definitely going to have the de-rust treatment, and it wasn't it was like $10 or something, but the blades are in good shape. It's just kind of rusty. And then he had some Craftsman knives, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So I picked up this little Barlow. It's a Craftsman Old Crafty Barlow. We're gonna look at these in the bench, but this thing looks like brand new. And then also an electrician's knife, also Craftsman, and so it says Sears, and this is actually stainless steel, which most of my electrician's knives are carbon steel, so that's kind of neat. Anyway, I want to talk about these and talk about the use and collecting of Craftsman knives. I think they are an extraordinary value. I mean, I literally paid $5 each for these. And we'll talk about them some more. But before we do, if you would, please click on the like and subscribe buttons, and let's get them on the workbench and take a look. Okay, let's get started. I looked it up, and Craftsman, the Craftsman tool line was started in 1927. Later they merged with Kmart. Kmart started selling Craftsman tools, and then in 2017, the Craftsman line was sold to Black & Decker and Stanley Black & Decker, and so now it's part of that line. And Stanley makes everything, I guess, or has everything. And it's kind of sad that Craftsman has gone the way it has. I think a lot of us of my age grew up using Craftsman tools, and we knew that they were good quality, and if you broke one of them, you just take it back to Sears, they just hand you another one, and no questions asked. And so I've always known Craftsman tools to just be the best of the best. But, I know there's better, and people say that there's other lines of tools. If you're a mechanic, you're going to say Snap-on's better, and I get that they are. But for a lot of us guys that just worked on cars at home and stuff, and the Sears store wasn't too far away, Craftsman tools were a mainstay. Anyway, you know, I like, this is an old Craftsman block plane that I picked up at a flea market. It needs to be restored. I know once I restore it, it'll be a good, usable plane that made of good quality materials, and so I actually kind of look forward to putting that one in use. Anyway, I went to this flea market, and they had a number of knives. One of them was this Western cutlery, and the tip's been knocked off on it. You can see that. But I think I can reprofile this and restore a good tip to it. You can identify Western, obviously you can read it. I had to clean the rust off this one so I could read it. But the thing that I look for right away that catches my eye are the 2 pins on the pommel. And, you know, this looks like wooden scales riveted on a solid tang, but this is actually one of those where Western has a slot in the middle of the tang, and hence the 2 pins. I mean, this could be actually solid all the way across, and they drilled for the rivets. That's possible too. I would have to unpin this and attempt to take it apart. I'm definitely going to have to replace at least one of the pins in the scales. And obviously get the rust off of it and repolish it. But I think this can be a really nice knife once it's restored. You know, be a good sized camp knife. Anyway, rosewood scales, carbon steel. This should be a good knife. Anyway, I also found, and at this table, the first thing that caught my eye was this old-timer, a Schrade knife. And like I say, it's a little bit rusty. It's going to need some, it's not bad, but it's going to need some de-rusting. But the blade profiles are still in good order. And I think once cleaned up, I think the shape of this one's a little funky on the end. But I think once cleaned up and sharpened up and, you know, correct any blade shape issues or profile issues, I think it'll be a good stockman knife, you know. And this is probably from the 60s or 70s, I would guess, considering the quality of manufacture on this. I think when you got into the 80s and later, the quality wasn't quite the same. And you can kind of see that with this Uncle Henry. I don't know, they just got to where they felt a little kind of blockier, and, you know, the bolsters are, I don't know, the knife just feels a little more clunky. Now this one's actually stainless steel, I believe. It says Schrade Plus, which I believe is stainless steel, though there are some little tarnish spots here. Those stainless steel will tarnish if left wet long enough or under the right conditions. The shape of this pin blade has been kind of overdone. Someone sharpened it with a power sharpener, and they kind of changed the shape of the pin blade, but not so much that it can't be used. And so I'll get this sharpened up. It'll be a good user knife, Uncle Henry. You know, and if I lose it, Schrade will replace it free for life, remember? Yeah, that's happening. Anyway, the main thing I want to talk about with these Craftsman pocket knives. And the first one I spotted amongst these was this really pretty little Barlow. And it's Craftsman Old Crafty. Let me get this to focus here. And the knife is just in really pretty shape. I don't think this has been used. It's not sharp, which is typical of knives from the 70s and 80s. You bought a knife, you had to sharpen it. They didn't come sharp really often. And if you look at this kind of splotchy stuff on the blade here, this is the protective coating or oil that was put on the blade that over time just turned to varnish. You know, oil left long enough will polymerize and turn to varnish. And that's what's going on here. Probably would have to take some acetone to clean that off. But you can see the splotchy kind of look that's on here. That's actually like dried on oil or polymerized oil. And the scales are, you know, typical bone looking plastic, brass liners. I believe these pocket knives were both made by Schrade. And, you know, if you watch my channel much, you probably already know I like Barlows. I talk about this Western cutlery Barlow that I bought online and cleaned up, and so I love those. And then I have this one made by Boker, and it's stainless steel, 440C blade, you know, blade steel, and really nicely made stainless steel bolsters. And I really like it, except it was made in China. This is not one of the Bokers made in Germany. It's a Boker Plus. And while I really like the knife, I really wish it wasn't made in China. I don't have anything against the Chinese people. I mean, I'm half Japanese. I'm part Asian. It's just I like things made in the United States, you know. Anyway, Barlow's. So Barlow's catch my eye. I think it's a childhood thing. When I was a kid, I always, wanted a Barlow. It's what happened, I guess, when you read Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn or whichever one of those books where they talk about him. But so anyway, I spotted this. This knife, like I say, looks to have not even been used. And then there was this electrician's knife, and this one's definitely stainless steel. It says stainless on the blade stamp, and it's your typical electrician's knife. And again, if you watch my channel, you know that I have a thing for electrician's knives, and most of mine are from Camillus. And they're all built to those military specifications. One of the things you'll notice, though, about the Camillus is that the springs and the liners and the scales, everything, they're not finished flush with each other here. The liners are actually below the springs, which probably is why the springs are so dadgum stiff on this thing. If they had sanded these down until they were all flush, the springs would be a little weaker. This is really nicely done. They're all nice and flush. Blade's a little easier to open. And it's your typical locking screwdriver, electrician's knife. Nothing extraordinary there. But it's really nice quality. It's well made. Instead of the black Delrin, it's got, black plastic wood grain scales. Let's bring this up a little closer here. But it's a very nicely made knife. I don't think either of these knives really has seen, if any, they haven't seen very much use at all. They are both very, very nice condition, very clean. Most of the marks on them are just probably from rattling around in a box with a bunch of other knives, probably somewhere down the road. But they are just in very nice shape. And so one of the things I just kind of wanted to talk about is, Craftsman knives, largely made by Camillus and Schrade. Schrade, I think, through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, Schrade probably made most of theirs. I think Camillus made a few. Ulster made some. And there's some other companies that made knives for them. Parker Frost, I think, made some later on. And those are made in Japan. I'm just looking at these, and based on what I think the age is, I'm going to bet that both of these are made by Schrade. But, whether they're made by Schrade or Camillus, I mean, either one, they'll be good knives, right? So I think that's one of the great things about Craftsman knives. If you're looking for, like me, if I was looking for a Barlow knife that I could carry and use, but I wanted something in nice shape, and I didn't want to spend a ton of money, and I didn't really want to worry about damaging a collectible knife, then, these Craftsman knives would be a great value. They're, I literally paid $5 each for these. And, where can you buy a knife with good quality steel, good construction, U.S. made for $5? That's just really hard to beat. So whether you want to start collecting Craftsman tools and you start looking for these kind of things as part of your Craftsman tool collection, and there's probably people that collect Craftsman tools, especially going back into the 1927, that'd be pretty cool to find some Craftsman tools of that age. Or if you're just wanting, good quality pocket knife that you can use, or maybe you want to, get a first pocket knife for a young person and you don't want to spend a ton of money, but you want to get them something of good quality. And, these Craftsman knives are probably a really good choice. So anyway, that's kind of wanted to show you. If you go to a flea market and you see a Craftsman pocket knife like these, at first I kind of like, Craftsman. I don't really necessarily want a Craftsman knife, and I bought these other two Schrades, and then I got to looking at these, and they were all just piled in a box, and I thought, man, these are in really nice shape. I know they're made by, a good company. I should really just, add these to my collection and I'll find a use for them somewhere down the road, for $5. Why not? So I think that if you run across one of these, at a yard sale, flea market, or thrift store, or wherever, if you run across the Craftsman pocket knife, this kind of vintage especially, it definitely, if you get if the price is right, definitely worth putting a couple bucks down on to pick it up. And you'll either have a good user, or like I say, if you collect Craftsman tools, you'd have something nice to add to your Craftsman tool collection. Anyway, there you go, Craftsman pocket knives. Hey, well, there you go. That's Craftsman knives. I think in general they're very well-made knives. I think Sears back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, probably even before then, they always have had pretty high demand for quality for anything that they put the Craftsman name on. And so I think that, when you find a Craftsman knife, you be pretty well assured it's well made, and it will serve you well. And I think these are just really great for, if you're wanting just a good, pocket knife, one that you can use, one that maybe you don't have to worry about the collectability of it, and in terms of its value, but you want to use it. You want the carbon steel, or you want that particular style, and you just want to be able to use it without worrying about wearing out or damaging a collectible knife. I think the Sears knives, really kind of fit the bill for that. So anyway, I appreciate you watching my video. If you have any thoughts or comments or questions, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment. And as always, thanks for watching.